Now, welcome back. Chatsworth is the largest and most famous so-called Indian township in South Africa. And Made in Chatsworth is an illustrated 300-pager with personal memoirs from the author Kiru Naidoo. Now, the centerpiece of the book is the iconic Bangladesh market that's teeming with everything from fresh vegetables to ancient home remedies and, of course, live chickens. The author Kiru Naidoo now joins us from our Durban studio. Kiru, good morning and great to speak to you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Oh, good morning, Sakina. It's a great delight for me to be on air with you.
I mean, I paged through the book. It's an absolute delight. And you say that Chatsworth is your ancestral village. Talk to us about what inspired you to actually write this book about Chatsworth.
Well, I located it within this genre of Kasi stories. I was inspired by people like Richard Reeve, Professor Eskia Mphahlele, Blok Modisane, Ronnie Govender, and people like those who wrote about their lived experiences from the places from which they came. Now, the journalist Nat Nakasa wrote about himself as a native from nowhere because of the dislocation of colonialism and apartheid and so on. And so too with my own family. We were moved from the plantations to the magazine barracks, and then under the Group Areas Act, we were moved to Chatsworth, forcibly moved there. And we created a life in that township, created a vibrant life with iconic people, iconic experiences, and as you pointed out, that beautiful market, Bangladesh market, that's the centerpiece of my existence. So I wanted to tell those stories, a biography of place, but also a personal memoir.
And as you say, it is a memoir. It's an anthology of different characters and places with the Bangladesh market at the center of it all. So looking at some of the stories, you know, food, of course, plays a vital role, as does education, as does, you know, dress and all the other intricacies in between. But talking about simple pleasures, I mean, let's just speak to a few of those and the ones that actually stand out for you from your childhood memories.
Well, the real joy in Chatsworth was life. We celebrated life in all of its facets. And we are no different from communities, whether it's Soweto or Chesterville or the Cape Flats. Everywhere it's about a celebration of life, about a celebration of people, and much of that involves food. So there's a lot of the local food that I've tried to popularize in this book, lest we forget about them. Soured porridge, for instance, is a very important part of our existence. And if you visited in the Bangladesh market, we even have a food court there. So you go to ancient foods like idlis and fried bananas and samosas and vedas, and all of that captures the essence of the people of Chatsworth. Once we were a community largely of Indian origin. That is still the case in many ways, but over time, Chatsworth has evolved. It's become broadly representative of the demographic of KwaZulu-Natal, and even there are people from wider afield that live there now. So it's really an exciting place that's evolved, that's brought new experiences, and I wanted to capture that in some kind of written form so that these stories could live beyond just our living memory.
Kiru, the book is also full of pictures of different people and events. Now, how did you go about researching and collecting all of these memoirs and anecdotes?
Well, I'm a very inquisitive sort. You know, you tell me a little story and I'll spin a yarn out of that. I describe myself as a teller of short stories, long stories, and tall stories. But what I did here was just to capture the essence of people. So Fat Cat and Papu and Saptia and Champa, all of these people were part of my existence. We even have a Chaklas in Chatsworth, which would be a character that you'd find in any township in the country. So this inquisitiveness, I've not only gathered the stories, but I also looked to take pictures wherever I went. And I've scoured people's family albums, I've gone and looked in the archives, but mostly it's what we've had lying around. And I deliberately did not caption the pictures because I wanted people to fix a gaze on the picture and look at that and say, it looks pretty much like my grandparents, or that birthday party with the cream cake and fizzy drinks and plastic flowers on the table looks very much like my 1st or 16th birthday. So this idea was to see a diversity of experiences in the images, and the images themselves are just loaded with so many stories.
And indeed, it actually does that, because you're so right. One does go and automatically look for a caption to a picture, but it actually forces you to engage with it altogether. And as you say, you know, so many similarities. If you grew up in a township, the whole Fafi tale, for example, you know, the Dobbs, the way people used to dress, all of that comes through. But I love the part on the sari as well. So you know, this in all forms part of, you know, the book, and I think people would really enjoy it. But you know, if you could just tell us in terms of how you decided on those specific topics, why these ones as opposed to any other?
Well, I've got to say that the publisher had a great deal to do with this, because he sat me down over a bubblegum milkshake and he said to me, well, you can't say everything. Just handpick some of the stories that are most representative of Chatsworth. So painfully, I had to cull a lot of the stories. But like you point out, the dress, I mean, the sari is the oldest continuously worn fashion garment in human history, worn in pretty much the same form for something like 6,000 years. And for me now to see not just Indian people, but people of Zulu origins, people of European origins, embracing the sari as a fashion garment. And I've shown some of those pictures in there. There was even a parliamentarian at the opening of the KwaZulu-Natal legislature who wore a sari, which is something not immediately from her culture, but it shows how we've embraced each other, and the social cohesion, this diversity of experience. I think we've embraced all of that. I mean, this is an Indian shirt ordinarily that I'm wearing here, but this is shwe. That's very much part of our existence as KwaZulu-Natal, and we've taken this cloth to the fashion capitals of the world. So I want to be able to show in this book that it's not a narrow experience, that by writing a book like Made in Chatsworth, I hope it will spur other people on, that we could have the Kasi stories of KwaMashu, of Bochabelo, of Mdansane, so that we could gather this experience and tell the totality of the South African experience that's really so precious to me and the township that I grew up in.
Well, I certainly hope that people actually take you up on that challenge. It's been absolutely lovely. Love the pictures. One of my favorite anecdotes here of Sari auntie, who was Sita Singh, and her claim to fame was that she hit the marathon circuit wearing a white sari and tackies. So one of the anecdotes in Kiru Naidoo's book. He, of course, the author of Made in Chatsworth. The book recollects Kiru's memories of the most famous so-called Indian area of South Africa.